Welcome back. Let's jump into power rankings for week number 4. I am calling it for High Limit Racing here in 2024. As you can tell, quite a bit of movement on the board here. Some guys you're going to be seeing on the power rankings for the very first time, and a couple others you're not going to see because they slipped out of the top 10. So what we have here is the results from the last 3 races with High Limit Racing: Southern Oklahoma Speedway, Salina High Bank Speedway, and Riverside International Speedway. Plus, I have the driver where he's at currently in the overall point standings with High Limit Racing. But obviously, that's going to be a little bit different from where I have them at in the power rankings. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first driver on the power rankings making his first appearance inside the top 10 of 2024. He finishes up 10th, 10th, and 16th. He's currently 12th in the overall point standings. He's been relatively consistent, I guess, here over the last couple of races. More consistent than other drivers that have fallen out of the top 10, and that is why he is in the top 10. It is going to be Corey Eliason. So Corey Eliason moving into the top 10 of the power rankings. Couple top 10s during this little stretch here. 16th at Riverside International Speedway. And I know that him and Jim Shuttlesworth are still working on things with that 8 car. And I would have to say that Shuttlesworth, he's done a lot of his crew chiefing in Pennsylvania. There is no track like Riverside in Pennsylvania. So I'm not exactly surprised that he may have struggled there at Riverside. But Corey Eliason, 2 top 10s. One of them probably should have been better. He started on the front row of Southern Oklahoma. Had a tire going flat throughout the race, but was still able to hang on to a top 10. So I kind of like what I'm seeing for Corey Eliason, and hopefully those guys continue to have good runs. It was a tough start to the year for them. Obviously, they're 12th in points, but they had a couple of good runs over the last 3, so they make it into the top 10. Next on our list here, having a tough couple of races, is Justin Peck. So Justin Peck comes into this with 10th in the point standings with High Limit Racing. He's 9th on the power rankings, finishes up 12th, 7th, and 17th. And Justin Peck really has not been in the mix for a win with High Limit in quite a while. I feel like the last time he was in the mix for a win was at Golden Isle Speedway. Really, between Texas and RPM and Red Dirt and all that stuff, has not really been in the top 5 very much, has not been challenging for wins. It's been a tough stretch here for those guys. And going to a lot of new racetracks, that'll happen. But upcoming here, we've got some tracks that a lot of guys have already been to. Hopefully a notebook is built up for this Buick Motorsports 13 team, and hopefully they can start moving up the power rankings and hopefully start moving up the point standings as well. It's definitely been a rough couple of weeks, and during this stretch, we're looking at only 1 top 10 finish between these 3 races. So next, and making his debut in the top 10 as well here in the power rankings, don't worry about my handwriting, but James McFadden has made his way into the top 10 for the first time after missing the first 4 races of the season with Kubota High Limit Racing. He has now racked up a lot of good finishes, and unfortunately, you see a big blemish here being 24th. If you're not aware, James McFadden was racing for the lead, was in the lead when he got hit by Brad Sweet at Salina High Banks and had a big wreck, flew off the racetrack, and finished in that 24th position. Now, I'm not going to, factor in a 24th place result, and that's not going to hurt him because he was in the lead when it happened. He was leading laps. He was fast. And his other 2 finishes of 8th and 9th, he's been in the top 10 every single race that he has been with High Limit Racing in 2024 ever since he came from Australia. And that 24th place result, I'm not going to let it hurt him. He is extremely good right now. Riverside and Southern Oklahoma, all those racetracks were brand new to McFadden. And for him to be in the top 10 at all of them, I think it shows kind of where that team is at right now. And for him to be leading laps at these tracks where he's never been to either, it shows that he's pretty good. And I expect to see him moving up more and more on these power rankings by the time, we get to the middle portion of the season here. So McFadden, 8th. He's currently 16th in the overall point standings due to missing the first 4 races of the year. Next up, moving down 2 positions from last week's power rankings, is Jacob Allen. So been a rough stretch here for Jacob Allen. He did have a good run at Salina High Bank Speedway, came from outside the top 10 to finish up in 4th position. And he looked strong there, but a struggle at Southern Oklahoma and a bigger struggle at Riverside International Speedway for him, 13th and 22nd in those 2 races. But I really liked everything I saw from Jacob Allen before these 3 races. He was, up there in the top 10. He was leading laps. He was doing great things. And so I'm not letting these finishes of 13th and 22nd hurt him too bad. But if we go into this next stretch at 81 in Lakeside and he continues to struggle, we will see him lose more positions in these power rankings. But I think Jacob Allen still has a good baseline. And of course, I don't know if you saw on Facebook or whatever and Twitter today that Jacob Allen is not going to take this weekend off. It looks like a lot of our guys are going to go to Knoxville to race against the Outlaws, but that looks like it's not going to happen. A lot of rain. So you think, hey, they're going to take the weekend off. Nope. Jacob Allen driving back to Pennsylvania to run 2 races. I want to say one of them at Baths, the other one at Port Royal. So trying to stay sharp in the seat, and I like that. So hopefully it'll help Jacob Allen out in the long run here. Currently 7th in the overall power rankings, or whatever you want to call it. So 6th and up 2 positions from last week on the power rankings board is going to be Spencer Baston. So he had a 3rd place result at Southern Oklahoma Speedway, started on the pole of that feature after winning the dash, led a couple of laps, slipped back to 3rd for his best finish of the year. Then the next night at Salina Highbanks, I'm not sure what happened. He was non-factor. Outside the top 15, didn't talk about him one time all night long. They definitely struggled a lot there at Salina. But then they got going at Riverside and finished 6th. I don't remember saying his name at all at Riverside. And somehow, he just came home with a solid finish. So Spencer Baston, 6th place at Riverside. He's 6th place in the power rankings, up 2 from last week. And he's currently 5th in the overall point standings right now, holding on to that last charter position. Remember, at the top 5 at the end of the year, get a charter for 2026. And Baston right now holds on to that spot. Now let's move up to 5th in the power rankings. And that's going to be Rico Abreu. So Rico finishes of 6th, 3rd, and 21st in this time period. Currently 7th in high limit racing point standings. 2 solid finishes there with a 6th at Southern Oklahoma and a 3rd at Salina. And would you believe it if I told you that was the first podium finish of the year with Kubota High Limit Racing for Rico Abreu when he ran 3rd at Salina Highbanks? And then I have no idea what happened at Riverside. I'm not sure if the car was broke. There was something going on with it. But he had to take a provisional, and that's not crazy because, Peck, Parker Price Miller, Zeb Wise, they all had to take provisionals. It was one of those wacky nights at the racetrack. But, Rico started, I want to say 25th or 26th or something, and only got to 21st. He went a lap down. He couldn't get by some guys that you would think Rico would be able to pass, especially on a racetrack that, in my opinion, is a track that is right up the alley of Rico Abreu. And he finished 21st. So I'm kind of confused with these guys as far as their speed goes right now. I'm about on the same level with Rico as I am with Corey Eliason. I just cannot seem to figure these guys out. They are either really good one night or they're bad the next, or, it just kind of keeps going back and forth. There's not much consistency right now. And that 21st place result was quite shocking when, we came across and did the full feature rundown. Rico laps down. And just not a factor at all in that one. When you expect on a racetrack like that, you expect the 24 car to be moving forward no matter where he starts at in the main event. So Rico, 5th in the overall power rankings, moving up 1 spot from last week, and moving down 1 spot from last week in the 4th place position is Brent Marks. So Brent Marks just moves down 1 position. It's not like he was slow or anything like that. He's still fast. He's still top 10. We've ran 10 races so far with High Limit, and Brent Marks has been inside the top 10 in every single one of them. Has yet to get a win, but he did come close at Salina. He finished 2nd in that one. Came up about maybe a car length or 2 short on a slider that maybe would have given him the win there. He was 4th at Southern Oklahoma, and he was 8th at Riverside. Currently 4th in the overall point standings. I think this team and this driver are going to be very dangerous down the stretch. Brent mentioned it in one of his interviews over these 3 races that, the small track, I think it was actually a red dirt, that the small tracks are not his, bread and butter, right? That's not where he's making his money. That's mostly on the half miles, right? When he goes to Port Royal, Knoxville, Eldora, Williams Grove. He's very good on the big racetracks, but for him to be finishing in these positions on relatively small tracks, quarter miles, 3/8, it really shows how good these guys are. And when we go to tracks like Lakeside, when we go to Eldora, when we run Port Royal, 6 times, when we go to I-70, this team is going to be dangerous. They're going to win their fair share of races. But the fact that they are still 4th in points on tracks that Brent says they're not really the best at, I think they're going to be really good. And I think they could challenge for this championship as long as things stay together. They're 4th in points. I can't remember the exact number they're behind, but it's less than 50. So Brent Marks, I'm excited to see how he keeps going throughout this year. He's been fun to watch so far in 2024. Third and moving up one position is Corey Day. So Corey Day, I talked about it in the last video, the recap of Riverside. Corey Day is basically the Sheldon Haudenschild for high limit. He is unbelievably exciting. He's putting his car where nobody else is putting it at, and he is absolutely on the hammer at all times, it seems like. His finishes of 5th, 8th, and 1st have now moved him to 3rd in the power rankings and 3rd in the overall point standings. He now has the most wins out of anybody on the high limit circuit right now with 3, and he made over close to $50,000 in about a week between Red Dirt and Riverside International Speedway. And Corey Day is making me look like an idiot. I had him in that preview at the beginning of the year for the top 10 in points. I think I had him in like 7th or 6th. And he's 3rd right now and doing very, very well. The one question I do have for him, though, is can they figure it out on the big tracks? Because Gold Mile Speed, you remember back to that 4/10 mile, not a factor. He was outside the top 10 both nights. Texas Motor Speedway, another 4/10 mile. He finished like 9th, right? He wasn't really up there battling for the win or a top 5. How will these guys run when we go to Port, when we go to I-70, when we go to Eldora, when we go to these other big racetracks? How is Corey Day going to do? That is a big question I have right now. He for sure has the small tracks figured out. He's got the 3/8 and the quarter miles down, but what can he do on the big tracks? We'll have to wait and see here later on in the year. But Corey Day 3rd right now in the power rankings. Next up, 2nd, staying in the same spot as last week, is Brad Sweet. So 2 wins for Brad Sweet, his first 2 of the year, back-to-back nights at Southern Oklahoma and Salina, and then a solid night at Riverside. He finishes up in 4th. So him and Brent Marks, the only 2 guys that have been in the top 10 so far in every single race this year. And you would think, well, Chase, how did you not put him in front of Tyler Courtney? You got 2 wins, and Tyler didn't get any, right? I just can't. I can't. Tyler Courtney's been way too good, right? He's too consistent. He's not making mistakes. He's not. If he has a bad qualifying night, a bad bad heat race, he somehow still makes it happen, right? Like, we'll talk about him in a moment. But Brad Sweet obviously is very, very good. I just cannot put him in front of Tyler Courtney right now. Number one, he's 2nd in points behind Tyler Courtney. These power rankings aren't based off just points, but that is definitely a telling factor that Sunshine has been very, very good. So Brad Sweet, just doing Brad Sweet things. He's running top 5. He's running top 6. He's running top 7 every single night. And you know that he's going to be right there in the thick of things almost every single night. Every single racetrack we go to, Brad Sweet is going to be in the mix. And right now, he's 2nd in the power rankings, staying in the same spot as last week. And you know who is number 1, but we'll put it on the board just in case you don't. Tyler Courtney. So I put that video out last week saying that, in my opinion, he's the best sprint car driver in the country right now. He's easily the most consistent. When it looks like he's down and out, he's not. He finished second at Southern Oklahoma after starting 12th on a track that took rubber. He was still able to make passes. Salina might have been his most impressive night of the year. He ran dead last in the heat race, had to come through the B, started like 22nd and drove all the way to 5th and was looking for a podium finish, but he just ran out of laps. And then he was 3rd at Riverside. He led even more laps there. So Tyler Courtney, he's undisputable number 1 right now in the power rankings, undisputable number 1 with high limit. And this team has just been so good. It was announced earlier today that his crew chief, it wasn't. So Brad Sweet's crew chief, it was announced earlier today, Eric Prutzman, he was the crew chief of the month. But Jake Argo was 2nd, and he was 1 point behind. This team, Tyler and Jake, they are meshing very, very well right now. The cars, they did some switching around with the cars and the motors over the offseason, and everything is working according to plan. And they are very, very tough right now. They're not winning races, but they are going to be on the podium more often than not. I think I read they had 7 podiums in 10 races. That is absolutely incredible stuff. So Tyler Courtney, P1 on the power rankings, and right now I don't see him going anywhere. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know. Do you agree with these power rankings? Do you think I should have a guy somewhere else? Let me know down in the comment section below. Hit the subscribe button. That is free. Hit the like button. And we'll see you tomorrow for another video here on the channel. We've got plenty of stuff to talk about, plenty of content to talk about. We hope you guys hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.